Hello.
Hi.
Howdy.
Welcome to Hugo Girl, the podcast, where we read Hugo Award-winning novels and sometimes other things, especially during spooky season.
Woohoo!
I'm Lori.
I'm Amy.
I'm Haley.
And today we're going to talk about Carrie.
Womp, womp, womp.
Plug it up. Plug it up.
So, before we get into it, we do have a review.
Yeah.
We got a very nice review on Blue Sky, the app that currently is maybe replacing the app formerly known as Twitter.
I've heard of that app.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It feels kind of like Twitter
Mastodon,
before.
Right?
Okay, I think it feels a little bit more like Twitter than
That's cool.
Mastodon. I don't know.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Are we using Threads anymore?
We are. Threads is a weird place. I post like once a week.
We have an account.
We get an occasional like.
Thanks, whoever that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so Scarlett on Blue Sky shared our website link and said, fun to listen to. I highly recommend.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
that's us.
That was nice. That made me happy because we
That's
haven't
nice.
had any reviews on Apple Podcasts in a long time.
We're looking at you, every listener.
that, except for Scarlett. We're smiling at you. Thank you, Scarlett.
For just $1 a day, you can make Lori's month if you leave us a review. So please leave us a review.
We have a couple of corrections corners, pronunciation related. So it turns out Joan, whose last name is definitely spelled Vinge in American English, is actually, her last name is pronounced Vingy.
Vingy.
And we found that out too late for the episode. So
Vinge isn't anything gross and British, is it?
no, you're thinking of minge.
Okay, thank you.
And if that's a very bad word, is that a very
it's
bad
just
word?
Pussy.
Well, I was like, I mean, if I just said it to your kids, then I'm sorry. But then Amy said pussy to your kids.
But also your
so.
kids probably shouldn't be listening to that.
People listen with their kids in the car. Hi, Jamie.
Earmuffs.
Jamie's always like, it's fine. I'll call her and I'll be like, oh, am I on speaker? Are the kids in the car? And she'll be like, don't worry about it.
All right, next year DragonCon, Joan D. Minge.
Okay, so Vingy, and then also our space president, Arcady Martin. It's actually pronounced Arcady
Yep.
Martin.
Oh, I thought we got that one right.
Did we? I
thought we did.
Someone told us to say Arcady. I thought.
Maybe we went back and forth.
We learned
That's
that,
possible.
I think, at the Hugos last year. We were like, oh, we've been wrong the entire time. But
Maybe
yeah,
I'm
Arcady.
wrong about being corrected. I don't know. I just had a note about it in my phone because I thought someone told us, but who
Lori
knows?
hasn't been able to sleep since last month because of Arcady.
And that's like not her real name, I don't think.
No,
It is not. It is
her
a
real
pen
name is Anna Linden Waller. Somebody can yell at me about that. Also, our Twitter profile is now private because we got a like and a follow from a foot fetish group.
Yep, nope.
Aw.
1 year ago, Amy and I were shoe shopping for last year's Hugo Awards, and we tried on a matching pair of shoes, and it was cute. And I tweeted a picture of our feet for free. And I was like, look at us. We're like Romeo and Michelle in our little matching shoes. And then I forgot about it and went on with my life. And a couple weeks ago, you get a like on a year-old tweet, and that always makes you go, hmm? And I was like, who is this person? Word and a bunch of numbers as a handle. And I clicked, and I looked at the person's tweets, and every single one of them was a reply to someone talking about shoes, being like, sounds cool, post a pic.
Listen, no shame.
No, I have nothing against being into feet, but like it's kind of rude to just go around being like, give me your feet for free. So,
Because here's the thing, he could just look at them.
I know.
Why do you have to interact with
If
it?
he never clicked like, but just
Bot?
save it.
Was
Just
it- is it a
save
bot?
it in your spank bank, man.
Footbot.
Footbot. Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the world anymore. Anyway, our Twitter profile is private. Give us a follow. We'll accept it. And if you don't, ask us for pictures for free.
Or at least ask us
some
for your
money.
ask us
Yeah.
for our Venmo first.
Make us an offer.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's that. Okay. So, Carrie was first published in 1974. It is the debut novel by Tabitha King's husband, Stephen, former school teacher.
And it only exists because of old Tab.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was published in 1974 to modest success initially in the hardback edition, but then the paperback became a New York Times bestseller. And then the movie came out in 1976, and the rest is history. And I just, for all the writers out there, I wish you that same good luck that your first novel becomes a New York Times bestseller and you get a movie deal.
And he didn't even like it.
He didn't even like it.
Did y'all see that there was a musical?
I saw
Yeah, that seemed like not a great idea.
Oh, man, I wish I could have seen that.
You know, the actor who played Coach Collins in the movie played Carrie's mother in the musical.
Huh.
Yeah.
I could see. Okay.
I don't think I would want to see it. It seems weird. But anyway, brief plot summary by DM. That's me, and it's not by me. It's by StephenKing.com. So, this story takes place in, the major events of this story take place in 1979, and it is the story of a misfit high school girl, Carrie White, who gradually discovers that she has telekinetic powers. Repressed by a domineering, ultra-religious mother and tormented by her peers at school, her efforts to fit in lead to a dramatic confrontation during the senior prom. And you probably know what happens. But something you might not have known if you haven't read the book and you've just watched the movie is that Carrie is short for Carrietta.
I love that.
So I kept thinking of her as Carrietta Bradshaw the whole time. And I wondered, am I psychic?
I had to ask myself, should I blow this whole town up?
Why are my dirty pillows?
Something that was very funny when I was perusing StephenKing.com for a plot summary is that on the page, he's got like a page for each book, and on the Carrie page, there's a plot summary, there's the text from inside the book jacket, and then there's a list of characters in the book. It is extremely comprehensive. If a person is referred to, given a nickname, they're all in there. So like Sue Snell is in there 400 times because she has all these like self-deprecating nicknames she thinks of herself as. So we have gotten as specific as, let's see, character, Margaret White's grandmother. Description, she was a witch. Sheila Horan's brother. Description, he was hit by a hay truck. Character, the unnamed boy. Dale Ullman whispered to him. That's it. That's his description. And then two men. Description, two unnamed men electrocuted the night of the Black Prom.
I think Stephen King had an intern and he had to give him a job. And this is what he did one summer.
That sounds exactly right to me. But then you're just supposed to just like
Throw
be
it
like,
away.
good job. You don't actually put it on the website, Stephen King. It's so funny. It's got Doyle Otis, in quotations, Big Otis, description, sheriff. Doyle Otis, sheriff, description, sheriff. AKA Big Otis. And those are right in order.
I love a circular reference. I love a circular reference.
It's so good. Okay. So, goodies from Goodreads. What do you have, friends?
I have 2, and I decided to slum it up in the 1 stars. Usually I do the 2 stars.
Let's
but
do it.
I have 2 great ones. Casey said, been a while since I've read a book very clearly written by a man. And then Brooke Nelson gave it 1 star and said, the scariest part of this book was the description of underage girls written by the adult male author.
Jessica on Goodreads had a really, really good review. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to read this one part where she says, this novel was insane and fearless and obviously written by someone who had this story in him that needed to gush out like Carrie's menstrual blood and crazy telekinetic angst. This is one of the books I think of when I get depressed about the idea of workshop writing and the internal observing critic and all the rest of that limiting quality control type stuff. Sometimes people need to tell the nasally fact checkers in their fevered brains to sit down and shut up and drown out the voices of reason and temperance so they can let the wild stuff come out. And when they do, that's when they write Carrie.
Wow. My compliments to Jessica on that backhand.
Yeah.
She started out by saying, I want to start a shelf of books that traumatized me as a child with stories of girls who just could not stop gushing blood down there, but I couldn't think of any others besides this and the bell jar.
Well, mine pales in comparison to those. Dan Schwent gave it 2 stars on Goodreads and said, I'm glad Stephen King broke into the business with Carrie, but it just wasn't my bucket of pig's blood.
Well, I see what you did there.
That's good.
Okay, so I feel like we could just skip straight to boob talk if we wanted to. This is the whole episode. Boob
It's the
talk.
longest boob top
Or rather,
so far.
Dirty Pillows talk.
Dirty Pillows talk.
DPT.
Dirty Pillows.
But maybe we can try to do a little general discussion before we get to Dirty Pillows
Dirty
talk.
Pillows.
So, Carrietta Bradshaw, our hero, opens with her freaking out because she gets her period in the locker room and her mother has not prepared her for that. And the movie Exact same opening. Really identical. We rewatched the movie last night.
Plug it up.
Okay, so let's talk about. I feel like there are times in this book where Stephen King seems to know the difference in a pad and a tampon, and there are times when he doesn't. Like when he says that she blots her lipstick with a tampon, she didn't do that.
Well, then she also says later that she used a pad.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But, and like, that's a silly thing to do, but like, I also don't believe that anyone was so uninformed that they blotted their lipstick with a tampon.
Because if you have a tampon, she had to get it from somewhere, and the box has words on it.
The box has words on it.
Yeah.
I guess unless she was getting it from the dispenser in the bathroom.
But also,
Why was she wearing lipstick? It seems like that wasn't going to fly.
Well, she was sneaking.
sneaking
Oh,
lipstick,
true,
yeah.
true.
Well, like, okay, a panty liner, a pad, I could see how you might be like, oh, I pat something with this. There's way more of it than there needs to be for my lipstick, but I pat some. But a tampon,
You're not pulling that out of the applicator.
it's round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
this is-
round. Was she pushing it up out of the applicator like a lipstick tube and using the end to dab her?
Maybe just
I
the
think
tip.
so. I think because it
Just
looks
the
like
tip.
lipstick, Stephen King was like, I can do something here. And
Oh, he was like drawing a like parallel
she was
between
like,
the shapes.
boop, boop, boop.
Oh yeah, wow.
I thought it was completely reasonable.
I don't know where-
that a misinformed woman would be like, "Oh, this looks like lipstick. This is what I do."
Okay. All right. Okay. I
I
was like, I don't know where Tabitha was for that fact, but
I keep thinking about how when she's getting pelted with pads and tampons in the shower, a tampon gets stuck in her pubic hair.
oh no, it was a pad. It got like the adhesive side.
But
got
she's
stuck.
wet though, so I was confused. By that.
Yeah,
Listen,
there was a lot going on where I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just meant to be disoriented like Carrie
Yeah.
is right now.
I was more distracted by the fact that this man envisioned period blood as, I mean, it does come out and it will drip on a floor.
But not like in a very
But not,
scary way.
yeah, it's not going to be like a gush of gore down
I
the side of your leg.
Absolutely don't agree with that.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. That has absolutely happened to me and was happening to me a lot before I had a little procedure to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I've never had like if this is going to be a very graphic discussion, I guess, but like I've never had like where somebody would notice it from 10 feet away.
Oh, I mean, I have had it. So, I mean, if I just let it free bleed, I could see where someone would notice it for sure. But like the way I was picturing him describing it was like a bucket of pig blood.
Yeah.
Oh,
How does the movie portray it?
what was in the movie to me was like a reasonable
Yeah, it was
one of
just
those
dripping.
one of those
Yeah.
gushes where you're like, oh no.
And
Yeah.
everybody's had a gush.
Yeah, it was like that. And I could see why if you had no fucking idea,
Sure.
that would scare the hell out of you.
What is happening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would scare the hell out of you.
I always remember that scene from My Girl when she's like, I'm hemorrhaging.
Me too. Yeah, it scared the hell out. And she even knew what it was, but it scared the hell out of her.
I also do appreciate Stephen King writing a book in the 70s that's seriously centered around menstruation.
Me too.
That is wild.
I mean, he's not like winning any feminist medals
No,
for it, but
but
I
he
still
mentioned it.
I think it's a big deal.
but
and
he also wrote about
portrayed
it kind of sympathetically.
Totally.
And I know.
Totally.
And like made it clear it shouldn't be something to be shamed
Yeah,
about, which
right.
was a very interesting subtext
Right.
of what was going on.
Totally.
Yeah.
I read that he was bet $10 to attempt a story with a female main character by his friend Flip Thompson, and he started it as a short story.
He did
Yes.
for a gentleman's magazine.
Cavalier.
Yes.
And that, once I knew that he wrote regularly for gentlemen's magazines, it really made a lot more sense to me why there's so much boob talk.
Boobies. Yeah.
Dirty pillow
That's
talk.
how he cut his teeth.
Yeah.
I like that it was a bet. It's like, I bet you can't write a story with half the world's population as a main character.
And he was
He's
like,
whew.
well, he was like, you know what? I
Oh,
can't.
see-
I'm throwing it away.
That's
Yeah,
garbage.
I read that more as like he just only wrote men, and someone was like, "I dare you to try and write something else." I don't know.
Yeah,
That's how-
maybe that is what. Maybe Flip was like, can you just try-
Anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do one new thing?
Can you imagine reading a nudie mag and like looking at vaginas and then coming across this story about what comes out of vaginas? Like,
You're like,
what
"Oh."
would that do to you?
I didn't
Yeah.
sign up for this nonsense.
And he writes the principal like that, where the principal, I really like the principal.
too.
He's doing
Tried
his
hard.
best to be supportive, but he's also like, I'm very
A
uncomfortable.
man. He's also
Yeah.
a man
Right
in the
now.
70s. Yeah.
So I appreciated his portrayal.
Yeah,
But he's
with his
like,
paper
I'd
clips.
really rather not talk about this, but I have to, so I'm going to. But do I have to?
I just like him handing fancy lawyer's hat.
Oh,
Meanwhile,
my God, I love that.
discussing precedent court cases.
I like to, and I have no idea if that would be true. And it doesn't happen in the movie. So I will say I really like the movie. The movie is a stripped down version of this already very slim story. And I've always thought the movie was really good. And now that I've read the book, I'm one of those people who's like, well, I like the book better.
Oh, the book's
But
better.
I thought
Yeah.
that scene was so good. And for folks who have not read it and might be interested and don't mind spoilers, I mean, you know what happens. She burns down the gym. Everybody dies. More people die in the book than in the movie.
Yeah. 400 people.
440 people. So
That's the scariest part.
Yeah.
so Chris, the main bully, her dad is a fancy lawyer, and she gets suspended from the prom, and the girls' gym coach smacks her in the face, which she fully deserved. And I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'm fine with violence. And so he goes up there and he's all, I'm going to sue you, blah, blah, blah. And then the principal is like, I can see why you might do that as a parent. And also, as a school, we stand in loco parentis, meaning in the place of a parent. And so we'll just countersue you for all the abuse that your kid has perpetrated against Carrie White when she was in our care. And the lawyer's like, bye. It's so good.
It's so good.
It makes me think of the scene in The Office where Michael Scott stands up to the the people from corporate, where like Michael is an oaf for like 11 years of the show. And then there's like this 90-second scene where he just like all of a sudden is a master negotiator and just like blows you away. That's what I felt like when I read that scene.
It's so good though. And it's especially good because he was using Duder's argument, I guess. So he's like, y'all are in loco parentis. Yeah. You're supposed to be protecting my daughter from being manhandled by your teachers. And he's like, oh, you want to go there, do you? Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you how that goes. Oh my God, it was so good.
He's a good lunchroom lawyer.
Yeah. Everyone likes to see a bully or a snob get their comeuppance.
Yeah, that's great.
And that is a little foreshadowing about bullies and snobs getting their comeuppance.
So you just said that, I mean, you're maybe kind of joking, but you just said that the scariest part was how many people died?
Yeah, like when you think about like the last couple pages when they're like, and then like the 50 surviving seniors, like it's just grotesque.
Oh my God. Can you, did y'all ever see that movie with Sarah Polley where the school bus of kids gets...
I don't think so.
Not all the kids. Anyway, that whole concept of a town losing all of its kids.
Oh yeah,
that's frightening.
Is really horrifying.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that in terms of this book, like what makes it horror?
Yeah.
And like, is it the amount of blood in it? Is it like, what is it that makes it uncomfortable to read? Because I mean, it's dated a little bit now, and we've seen scarier things, I guess. So it's not like it's a jump out at you scare thing. It's like, so I was thinking about what makes it horror. I think that for me, there were two things that made it horrific. I mean, there's a lot, but it's very psychologically horrific, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, Stephen King goes on to do really well ultimately, but when Carrie confronts Chris and Billy at the end of the book. So Chris and Billy are the ones that set up the pig blood to come down on Carrie. And I don't even think she really knows that, but she sees them at the end of the book, and she's like captured in the headlights, and she's covered in blood, and she's just broken. There's nothing in her that's going to stop killing at this point.
She's dying.
And she flings the car against the side of the barn without even like really thinking. That was really scary to me. And then her and Sue Snell being psychically connected when Carrie dies was wild. It's such a wild idea to me that Sue Snell like feels someone die and has to know what that feels like for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
That sticks with me.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I also thought it was pretty incredible that Sue kind of felt that connection and was like, look at me and see that I didn't do this to you.
Yeah.
Like she opens up her mind knowing that Carrie could just shatter her apart and gives her like that access. Not that Carrie can't take it, but she's just like, here, look. And then Carrie flips through her mind, sees what she is guilty of and what she isn't guilty of, and lets her go.
Yeah.
She's the only person who gets mercy from Carrie.
Yeah. Yes.
And she did do some bad stuff.
She did.
Just not the final,
But like most humans, she did a bad thing in a moment and then felt bad about it and tried to make amends. And I think Sue Snell is us in this book. I think we're supposed to identify with her. And then contrasting her as Chris, who has no remorse.
Man, Chris, I was saying to Kevin last night when we were watching the movie, like normally, especially as an adult, we learn that like usually bullies are people who feel small and someone's been mean to them. And I was like, I think Chris is just an awful person inside her bones. No one's been mean to her.
Yeah.
She was just born bad.
If anything, Carrie should be like mean and angry, and she's not. She's
she does burn the town down.
Well, true, but only because she's been pushed to it. But like,
it's not malice.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting too that it started by her just like freaking out, and I don't think she was planning to kill anybody or intending to kill anybody. And then once the fire started, she was like, well,
Yep.
because
I've gone down this
she
road.
locks them in and wants to get them wet.
Yes.
Yeah, so she wants to like
She wants
destroy
to
their dresses
humiliate
and their
them.
hairdos and that sort of thing. But then when she realizes there's live wire in there, she's like, oh.
Yeah.
She's like, well, what's done is done.
Yep.
No reason to leave it
Oh yeah,
half
because
finished.
she watches the DJ guy.
Yeah.
Or one of
There's
the guys
the
in the
band.
band.
Yeah, there are cables all over the floor. And those, I think that's what starts the electrical fire, which is interesting. In the book jacket, it says that she knocked over a candle at the dance. And so I went back in my ebook and looked for all the instances of the word candle, and it does not seem like she knocked over
She
a candle.
definitely did not knock over a candle.
Yeah, that's on
She knocks over she knocks over like the centerpiece or something. So there is a candle in that centerpiece.
It said it whiffed out.
Yeah, so I guess that's what they're talking about, but that doesn't actually set anything on fire. So
Yeah, it says, she made a lighted candle fall and she locked the doors.
well, those two things are true.
But they don't add up to the fire.
I was thinking about this. Like, I thought I like the movie better than the book because I need that visual depiction of the rage to really feel like having this book also be written in the form of like newspaper articles is a little detached for me. So like,
I wanted to talk about that.
yeah, so like seeing her in the movie, like with her crazy eyes and like the doors, like I feel it more intensely, the horror part. But then I was realizing like I don't really read a lot of horror because I don't get it that way through words. Because I think I can be like, this is just a report that somebody did, whether or not it's written that way. But I love seeing like the rage and the blood. It's really visceral.
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek's eyes are incredible, and she does not look like the way Stephen King describes Carrie.
Bovine.
He calls her, but he just is like, she's got this blank expression, which maybe she would. She's just constantly living in terror. She might always just be so frozen by that
She's always saying,
Yeah, she is rendered a little like dopey. But yeah, she does not look like the way he describes her at all. But Sissy Spacek's eyeballs, I think she was right for the role because she is able to she's just terrifying just by looking. And when she's covered in blood and her like white and icy blue eyeballs are just standing out, oh my God,
and
it's
also,
so scary.
Like, it's like criticisms of the L word. It's like movies and TV shows have attractive people. That's just Hollywood. So
yeah. I mean, as we were discussing before, John Travolta playing Billy is just silly. Because
he doesn't play Billy, you know, it's like the character's name is Billy, but that's not the character from the book.
Billy in the book is like, there's a tightly wound malice in that man.
Yeah.
And like he never smiles and he's a very calculated person in a lot of ways. And that just does not translate into
the most memorable scene in the book for me is when they go and hit the pigs over the head with that sledgehammer.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is that's more vicious than the last 10
Totally
pages.
awful. That was so upsetting. And then they're like, the very last line I think of that section is mentioning that the farmer who owns those 3 pigs is coming back from his mother's funeral.
To find the pig?
To find his pigs not only dead, but
drained of their
bashed
blood.
and drained of their blood.
Yes.
All three of his pigs. So if you only have 3 pigs, even if you are a farmer, you know them. In the movie, it's like a factory farm with like hundreds and hundreds of pigs, which is still terrible.
No, these are
but
his,
I think
family, not family,
like
but
the abuse against the farmer is much worse when it's like he knows these 3 pigs. They probably have names.
The genius of Stephen King, I think Stephen King is a genius in my mind, and I think that. He has some more successful books than others. I mean, he's very prolific, so that's going to happen. But I think his genius comes in. I think Billy shows a really good example of that. Like, Billy is just got done raping someone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the book, it shows him getting ready to leave the room because he knows that the world is crumbling and he's like planning his escape, basically. And he's doing his hair and he's using this comb. And the comb is described as this ace comb. And he's like, he got it from his father and not one tooth is broken, not one tooth. And it's like, you go from Billy being this rapist to Billy having this whole backstory with his dad that you get from that one sentence about the comb.
That's true.
Which is just, how does he do that?
It's interesting how concise he can be and how he so often is not. But he really can tell you so much
going on
On
in
the
there.
first page, he talks about Miss Desjardins' whistle that she won at a college archery championship.
Yes.
And I was like, oh.
Now you know all about her.
yeah.
And you only need to know about the whistle. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
It's
such a good point.
I think it's crazy how he can do that. And like Margaret White has layers. You know, Margaret White is Carrie's mom.
Yeah.
And most of the book, she spends her time being this overbearing religious zealot, you know, who's ruining Carrie's life. But you get these like weird glimpses of her life. Like you learn about her parents and you learn about, and then when she's at the very end, she talks about how Carrie was conceived. And there's so much in her delivery of that story. Like the entirety of her marriage is wrapped up in that story where they spent years not having sex and then they just failed at not having sex one night, basically.
And it's unclear if it's consensual or not.
I think
it's not.
I think it started out. I don't know. I think it's in this weird gray area. I think she really did not want to do it, but she also really wanted to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because that's what a lot of men get taught about women when they say no.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so that's maybe coming from a man's head. I don't know. But I could also see her wanting to have sex and just denying herself this for years and years and years and years. And then finally like, just giving in.
The fact that she gives birth alone and then cuts the afterbirth with like a kitchen knife. Woo!
3 times she tried to kill her own kid.
Yeah.
Oof. Anyway, Stephen King. Insane.
Shall we talk about the newspaper clippings and whatnot?
Yeah. So I liked that. You were saying
it's fine,
it took you out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I like epistolary type
I do too.
writing. I read an interesting quote. I think it was on Wikipedia, so it's not like I did. This isn't deep research, but there was a quote in there about someone saying that using that method was a way of showing that no one, no matter if they were there, no matter if they're Carrie or if they're like a scientific research later, no one can know really what happened, which is a really interesting idea to me, that we will like dissect these things to the nth degree, but we don't really know. And that's so true about a lot of things.
Yeah. I like it too. Haley, sometimes I share how you feel about it, like breaking up the story and taking you out of it a little bit. And I'm sorry, I know that Amy and others love it so much, but I was use like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell as an example of where I think that they're like too long and they take me out of the main narrative. But I feel like, for me, but then like here, I feel like they were pretty short passages. So I didn't like forget what was going on in the main narrative, and you come back to it pretty quickly. And I really liked them. I thought they were so interesting. And it was so interesting how in this, what is it called? The White Committee that is studying these events. They treat everyone who survived like some type of perpetrator.
Suspect. Yeah.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it rings so true in a way.
Well, and it does ring true. And also, it's like kind of a good point that they can't explain how they know things that they know. Like the guy who was in the drunk tank at the jail. I love that. That is so like
the best.
That's so Andy Griffith show where he's like, I'm too drunk. I'm just going to take myself over to the jail. And they're like, they don't lock you in. He's like, no, I'm a really good guy when I'm not shit-faced. And he's like, I'm very trustworthy. And he's testifying and he's like, well, I saw Carrie White walk by. And they're like, how did you know it was Carrie White? Had you ever met her? And he's like, good question. I had not met her. I don't know. And it was because her mind was like a siren blaring out that she's Carrie White, and everyone around is hearing it inside their heads or just knowing it. I don't even know if they're hearing it, but they're knowing things about her and understanding to a degree what's happening. And of course, no one believes you when you're like, I don't know, man. I just knew.
Yeah. I don't think it was ineffective. I just think it didn't help me with the horror part. But in terms of like telling a story, it does a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would say that it does for the horror part is sort of, y'all ready for an English major word?
What? Let's do it.
Juxtaposing.
Ooh.
The like sort of cold scientific analysis and the trying to make it into this banal thing with the like very real gritty reality of what's going on. That was, and like trying to take this bloody awful thing that happened and distill it into something that's data or something that can be swept under the rug.
Which is really kind of a traditionally very like white male thing to do.
100%. The word whitewashing was going through my mind when I was saying that, but it didn't really apply.
I read a review that was, someone was like, I didn't like all the scientific parts because she's like, I don't want to know like how the sausage is made.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and I thought the same thing. It's like, I don't care about like, does she have a node like in the power? No, I don't care. She's like, she's got TK. Don't worry about it.
But that's exactly what I think would happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're like, there
people
has
would
to
be like,
reason.
we have to dissect this. We have to understand it. We have to fit it into boxes that we, the dominant culture, the dominant power, that we understand.
And then the hint of the witch hunt that gets sort of thrown in there. I think it was the dude who was writing the book. I think that's where it was.
Well, because otherwise it is witchcraft, if you think about it.
Right. And then the witch hunt is like, we have no way of controlling these people. If this really is a thing that exists and someone else loses their marbles, like, or like just loses their control, like Carrie did, or I guess she really didn't lose her control. She gained control, right?
She let herself feel, and
it's like the idea of starting to test them.
She did the equivalent of like a normal person punching a wall.
Right, right. Yeah. And
the
like
consequences are just way Yeah.
So then it turns into this, like, the kids are going to be tested for this gene when they go into elementary school. And then, you know, when they go through puberty, they're going to be carefully watched to see, like, what happens.
It makes
like
me
the power.
think of Origins.
Oh, Origins.
Yes.
Earth
Yes.
trilogy.
Yeah, so
because you have
true.
these kids who have these powers that they may or may not know how to control, but they're also still kids with the impulse control or lack of that comes along with
And
it.
the School for Gifted Youngsters.
Yeah. I was thinking this yesterday. I was at Kroger and this baby was having a meltdown. And I was like, okay, so toddlers have meltdowns. None of us have kids, so feel free to write us in. And they have these meltdowns because they they don't understand their emotions. They don't control them. And I was like, as an adult, I know how to control my emotions for the most part. But like, do we just feel things less or do we just hide them more?
Well, we have context, right?
Yeah.
So babies and children, to a certain point, everything that happens to them is either the worst or the best thing that's ever happened to them.
And it's the only thing.
Right, because they have absolutely
yeah.
no context for anything.
They don't understand it at all. Whereas like, I'm like, this hurt my feelings. I'm sad now.
Right.
I can talk.
But you know that because a worse thing happened 2 years ago, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And you know that there are worse things that could happen, so you can put it in context.
And you know you'll feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like,
Right,
you know,
and it will end. This is not just life.
You
now.
you don't feel things as deeply, but I just thought it would be so funny if like humans, you saw a man at Target that was like, they're out of contact lenses.
Well, every
Having a
now and then
temper
you do see that. I've seen those men on the internet or those women on the internet.
And it's so
cussing out the
disconcerting.
barista over wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot of those.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, and
those
like
adults, thank God they don't have telekinesis.
yeah, and it's like it's easier for us to judge because a lot of times they are assholes that are neglecting a societal norm, like wearing a mask during a pandemic, or you know. It's just a weird thing to be like, oh yeah, that baby. What if that baby was a fire starter, like one of his other novels?
Right. Yeah. Like a baby. And I thought it was interesting that people started seeing, like, because at the very end, he writes this letter from one woman to another about this kid and their family. And she's talking about how the kid was just making marbles go and just sort of delighting in it. And I think most of the time kids have that. Like, they're sort of just fascinated and delighted most of the time. If they're having a relatively good upbringing.
Everything's new and
If
exciting.
they're surrounded by love, that's what's happening. But yeah, like if they were like, no, I want that thing. No, you can't have that thing. I will have that thing. Just like
There's a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits episode about that too, where like this entire town lives enthralled to a baby or like a little girl that can read your thoughts, and if you think something bad, she's gonna hurt you.
Ooh, reverse Omelas.
I
It's
like
really good.
that.
Yeah.
It is reverse Omelas. Oh, that's good.
I thought, okay, so I want to read a little paragraph. It's like a couple sentences long, but I thought it was really interesting. It puts the context in the 70s of why this book was a little different. So like it talked about how, it was an article on Tor.com that we can put in the show notes about how the early 70s was a weird time in American literature. It's like Gore Vidal is kind of stuffy, but there was nothing respectable about Carrie, nothing high-minded. It wasn't about upper middle-class New Yorkers with good educations and nice clothes. It was raw, racy, and set firmly in a blue-collar community full of tampons, religious mania, glow-in-the-dark Jesus paintings, boogers, teenaged boobs, and lots of deaths. No one had read anything like it. As rough and raunchy as moonshine, it came slouching out of the wrong part of town, threw readers up against the bathroom stall, and yanked down their pants, offering a head-spinning mix of seedy thrills and tight, character-focused writing.
Yank down their pants.
Wow, yeah, that went to
That took
I
a
was
turn.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is really vivid. Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't love the yank down their pants part, but everything else about it I like a lot.
Yeah. No, I would like to know more about that. Like who he thought I don't know if he knew who his audience was, which is an interesting thing to me about this book. Like, he wasn't really sure who was going to buy this.
He was a teacher living in a trailer, like solidly like lower middle class probably. I don't know a lot about Stephen King books. I've read a couple, but I love what he does with the state of Maine. Like, he's so Maine, and I've never been there, but I know it's so Maine.
I've wanted to go to Maine since I was 11 because of Stephen King books, and I still have not been to this day.
Side note about the location of this story. About half the characters in the movie talk with a like weird country bumpkin accent.
Oh.
So I don't know if Sissy Spacek is from Texas, so perhaps she has a heavy Southern accent, but also John Travolta, who we know does not have a heavy Southern accent, and then the gym coach will sometimes sound like Dolly Parton and sometimes not. And I was like, what? Do they know where they are? What are they getting at?
Maybe it's because nobody really knows a Maine accent, whereas everybody knows a country accent.
Yeah, I wondered if they were just trying
Generic
to like
country.
communicate like this is small town America and this is what it sounds like.
exactly like what it probably was. Like, these are not sophisticated people.
It was very inconsistently applied.
Which, of course, Southern accent means not sophisticated. Of course, obviously.
Of course. Oh, I had a quote. King himself has described this novel as being a cookie baked by a first grader. Tasty enough, but kind of lumpy and burned on the bottom.
How funny.
He's very much like, this book is not great, but it got me famous and I love it.
I like this book so much.
I do too. And I it's interesting reading it because you see things like he loves to do that thing where he intersperses, either dialogue or just explanation or whatever with those little parenthetical internal thoughts.
Yeah,
Like he
yeah.
does that in a lot of his books, and he
Oh,
gets
mama.
much better at it as it goes along. Like reading this now, it's so clunky the way he does that. But like when you read something like Tommy Knockers, he does a really good job in this because it's a lot of like communicating through brains.
Ooh, I want to watch Tommy Knockers for spooky season. Oh, Kevin just made a face.
I've never
Is it
watched
so
it.
scary?
No, it's
Oh,
What's it
it's
about?
not
the
good.
book and the movie are, but they're both a little bit hokey. But
like
it's about
Salem.
alien. These people find this alien ship in their town, and they dig it up, and they get very obsessed with it, and then people have sex.
I like Salem's Lot.
That all sounds fun to me.
It's fun. It's
I
just-
like everything you just said.
I don't know. I think I only watched half of the movie.
Only have you DNF'd a movie.
I think it came on TV.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a TV
Oh,
movie
I don't
like-
want to watch a miniseries. I thought it was a movie.
The miniseries, I like The Langoliers.
with Bronson Pinchot.
Yeah, and they like tear the
Crying
paper.
as he tears the paper.
Yeah, it's so good.
Indelibly in my mind forever.
I don't know about it. I watched Misery recently. I couldn't believe how good that was.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, it's so
the book is
stressful.
really good too.
Oh, we were watching that thing on Shudder where they talk about, the clips of like the 100
That's how I
scariest
love watching those,
moments.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. And I had never heard of Gerald's Game, and they had a clip from that, and I was like, holy shit, I
Gerald's
need to read
Game
that.
is wild. It's wild. It shouldn't. It's another one where he's writing about this woman.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't make sense or work, but it does. Like I mean, these two people are setting up to have a little sex time, and
Ooh.
yeah, things unfold.
Man, woof.
Also good on Shudder. There's like a queer history of horror, and like it's so good. And it has like Elvira's there, and she's talking. I don't know. It's just really cute.
Elvira!
It's got Tananarive too, and yeah.
When Elvira was like at her peak, did people know that she was gay?
No, she only came out like 2 years ago.
That's what I thought.
very
I wasn't
recently.
sure if I
just
remembered that correctly.
boobs for every man in the liquor store.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to bring it back to this.
Okay.
So in the movie, Chastity Pariah is one of the bullies. Helen,
yes, that's
with the
right.
big glasses.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell my
Chastity
story
Pariah.
about Chastity Pariah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've told it on the podcast before. So when I was a kid, I loved watching Elvira. Not appropriate. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
But you wanted to watch Elvira.
I saw Elvira enough times that I have parts of it dedicated to memory.
That has
So-
jokes like, "How's your head?" Never had any complaints.
So there's a scene where Chastity Pariah comes running up. What's the actress name? Edie McClurg.
And she's also the secretary in Ferris Bueller for people that know that more.
So they're at a church potluck, and Elvira brings something that she doesn't. I don't know if she knows or not that she's accidentally put like a horny spell in the chili that she brought. And Chastity Pariah, everyone gets horny. Chastity Pariah has been like the meanest to her, and she eats some, and she's sitting at the table. She's sweating. She wipes her brow, and she goes, "Oh boy, am I a horn dog." And I, when I was like 7, thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. And I would run around going, "Boy, am I a horn dog." And I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons
Oh,
or Edward Scissorhands.
why not Edward Scissorhands?
That's so wholesome.
I don't know, man. And Edward Scissorhands was a birthday party movie. I was at a birthday party, and that was what they had rented to watch. And because I was very much a goody two shoes, I called my
I
parents.
must leave.
And I was like, "Am I allowed to watch this?" And the answer was no. And you might think that then the mom was like, "I guess we can't watch it." And then everybody was mad at me. Nope. The mom was like, "I guess you can't watch it." And I sat in the stairwell while everyone else watched the
Why would your mom come get you? That's so bad.
That's true. Why didn't she? I never wondered. She should have come to get me.
Maybe she just assumed they
She
didn't show
probably
it.
thought I would just go ahead and watch it. It was my dad who said I couldn't watch it. My mom was probably like,
Your dad.
"No, you can't watch it. Wink, wink." And I didn't hear the wink over the phone.
This PG movie that is not inappropriate at all.
I think it was PG-13. Maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
Egads.
I haven't seen it in a minute, but there's nothing. I mean, for violence, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I can't defend them.
Yeah.
Anyway, boy, am I a horn dog.
Oh man.
I think everything else is boobs.
Yeah, any other general discussion? I think that Tommy is Stephen King's self-insert because he has a strong moral compass and he's
Oh.
secretly a very good writer.
Good old Tommy.
Oh yeah.
Good old Tommy.
Tommy's sweet.
Except for the whole condom thing. In most of Stephen King, nobody's perfect.
What happened, Condom?
Either the condom, he was having sex with Sue and it either came off or broke and he knew it and he didn't tell her till after.
Oh,
And
Tommy.
then there's one point where
Oof.
she realizes her period is late and she remembers him again being like, "I'm sure it's fine."
But she gets her period at the end, so we know she's not pregnant.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
It goes running down her legs like periods always do in this
I
book.
thought that was so annoying, and because I bet he was like, "This is brilliant. I'm going to bookend it with periods." God,
Oh, yeah, it was
I'm
such a good move.
I don't hate that.
He originally ended it with Carrie growing horns.
Yeah, and taking the airplane.
Taking an airplane out.
The summary that I saw said an airplane that is thousands of miles above her. That was on Wikipedia. I turned to Kevin. I said,
That's too high.
planes don't fly thousands
No,
of
it's like
miles.
3.
Yeah.
Like a plane that's many thousands of miles overhead has already got
Thousands
problems.
of feet.
I mean,
Maybe that's what.
to put it into context, the ISS orbits at like 270 miles. So thousands of miles would be like,
Yeah, it's like Jupiter.
yeah.
Or the moon. The moon's
Yeah.
like 200 and something thousand, 300,000
Yeah.
miles.
The moon's like 2 days away, going real fast.
The moon is so far away.
It is so far away.
You think it's close, but
Whenever
it's
I
not.
think about it, I'm like, but I can just see it.
It's just right there.
We've said this before.
I will continuously, for the rest of my life, I hope, be amazed by the moon.
It's pretty cool. Okay. So yeah, Tommy, mostly a good guy. Weirdly insightful for a teenage boy, especially about his own
Yeah.
middle school bully revenge.
And he's like genuinely nice to her when he takes her to prom.
I think he kind
Yeah.
of develops a little crush on her.
I think he does. We see his
Yeah.
like interior thoughts a little
He
bit,
likes
and he
her.
does like her. And I think he, at that point, is genuinely happy to be there with her. Is part of that because she cleans up nice, probably.
She was making some jokes. She was having a good time. Like,
Yeah.
Carrie was she was glowing that
And
night.
he was thanked by getting brained with a big steel bucket.
Yeah. I thought it was unfair that Sue thought Carrie killed Tommy because I don't think Carrie killed Tommy. Unless he wasn't dead yet when she set the fires.
I think he
Collateral
didn't.
damage.
I think he
Collateral damage.
Well, I think that the mercy for Tommy was that he was unconscious and was one of the first to die by electrocution.
But
when
did
he fell
actually
in the
die by
water.
Carrie's hand.
Yeah, I think his death happened before she was like, "I'm killing everybody."
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was probably a result of the water and everything. So, yeah, but it was more like negligent homicide.
Carrie has a lot of thoughts, but I don't think she tried to kill Tommy.
I don't think she did either. I don't think she did either.
Carrie's got a lot going on, but not that.
Okay. Does anyone have a feminist favorite? All I have to say is that it's nice to see a period exist in all its bloody glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually sort of into, I mean, Sue attempting to make amends by having Carrie go to the prom with Tommy is very contrived, but it was a little bit women supporting women.
Yeah.
I was there for it.
I also somewhat appreciated the scene where Sue realizes like what type of person she will become if she continues down this track of like elevating material things and reputation and stuff like that over like actually trying to be a positive effect in the world.
And she wanted more.
And she was like, I don't like the future I see for myself.
Yeah.
Like the roles women are playing are not something I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My feminist favorite is a little meta textual, but it's
Ooh.
Stephen King's wife saving this novel from the trash and then guaranteeing him a path to lifelong success.
Tabitha
Hell yeah,
is the
Tabitha.
feminist story.
I was thinking, I feel like Tabitha deserves a writing credit because when he pulled it out of the trash and he was like, I can't write a teenage girl. And she was like, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
she probably.
he at least dedicated it to her.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is clearly talented on his own, but I think she helped him along the way.
Like how Dan Simmons' wife does all his research.
yeah.
I like it. This is for Tabby, who got me into it and then bailed me out of it.
Aw, that's nice. Okay. Any other feminist favorites? Does anybody have a specific misogynist moment?
I mean, Margaret White, her conviction that women are dirty, immoral, terrible things, and that's why they get boobs and periods is, I mean, that's,
But can I...
oh, but Stephen King
right,
is in it.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like
yeah,
the
yeah.
misogynist moment is like the author's misogyny bleeding into the
Chris's
book.
relationship with Billy is pretty problematic to me.
For sure. I think it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, though.
Yeah, but
I don't think Stephen King is like, this is great.
Mine is the language around using pig and hog, which I'm sure is intentional.
That's
but like,
Stephen King.
That's
Stephen
true.
King.
That's Stephen King
true.
calling Carrie stupid like a cow, fat like a pig.
piggish, hoggish. Like there's like bovine. There's just it beats you over the head with it. And I know like he does tie it to the pig's blood, but it's like gross, dude.
But he also, because Carrie is based on people that were actually bullied in his life.
Yes.
So I was
The two
wondering
students,
if that's really what he thinks or if he's reusing the language that they used. We can't know.
I think we can look at some of
The
his
rest of his
future
books.
wants about women and
Yeah.
know what his thoughts
Yeah,
are.
that's
he
probably
doesn't
true.
change overnight.
Yeah.
You know, has anybody read like a more recent Stephen King novel? Like
The last one I read was, honestly, I think the last one I read was Rose Madder, and that was a long time ago.
because like I haven't read 11/22/63, but that's
Oh, I
like-
have read that one. I did read that one. Yeah. Yeah. It's mostly about some dude.
I imagine it's like a little bit evolved in terms of women, hopefully, but
I don't recall. I read it before we started doing this, and it really has sharpened my
yeah.
radar for
It's
this
funny,
kind of thing.
I-
But I don't recall being put off by any of it.
It's funny. Sometimes I can turn off our Hugo girlness when I'm reading a book.
Yeah.
And
Me
then sometimes
too.
I'm like, oh, I can't.
Same.
Like, actually, reading this, I just kind of flew through it. Like, I think because it's such a part of, like, the pop culture lexicon that I was like, I know it's weird.
I got tripped
Yeah.
up on one or two things, but on the whole, I was like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Mostly it was the race stuff
Yeah, there are some
that
weird,
tripped me up.
Yeah.
very casual, like
Extremely
don't add
racist
anything,
descriptors. Yeah.
racist descriptions. Like,
And there's no black people in the book,
Yeah.
no,
which may be true for Maine. I don't know.
According to the list of characters on StephenKing.com, there's a character referred to as the Black Man.
Oh, no.
And then under description it says Satan.
Well, yes, that did happen. That is true.
But yeah, there's no actual people who we know are black people in this book.
So that description comes from very firmly rooted New England descriptions of Satan, though he didn't make that up. Yeah.
But it's very...
But it's still very jarring when you read it.
When I was
Yeah.
reading the character list and it just said the Black Man, I was like, oh, did they like just mention someone in a shop or something? And then I was like, oh,
No, it's just Satan.
No,
Yeah,
just Satan.
Obviously.
But that's how much racism is embedded into our American life.
100%.
That's the first thing you think of. It's like, oh, is this like a racist trope?
Yeah.
No, it's the devil, the literal devil from New England. So, I don't know.
well, I mean, I think the whole like black being evil is kind of a racist trope.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Dirty Pillows talk. We've got like 13, 15 minutes to go, so let's do this. How much time do we have?
Oh, Dirty Pillows, all one word.
Yeah, I never knew it was all one word.
All one word. Dirty Pillows.
Dirty Pillows.
These are your Dirty Pillows.
But it's also like, it's not as bad as it could be. Like, it's not like dirty sacks. Like, pillows is like kind of like
Sacks.
Comfy and
people
soft.
like pillows. Like, that's
But
a
they're
comforting
dirty
term.
pillows.
Dirty
Nobody
pillows.
likes a dirty pillow.
Nobody does
Yeah,
like
I mean,
a dirty pillow.
I think the most fucked up thing in this book is the mom equating any aspect of femininity, maturity with, like,
Yeah.
so far as we understand it, Mr. King, people's boobs are basically a stand-in for how evil they are. The bigger and saggier the breast, the more evil a character is supposed to be, which is fascinating.
I don't know. Chris has great tits, and she's really evil.
Does she have great tits? Do we learn about
here
her
we
tits?
go. I got you. I got you. Firm upthrust breasts. The way things were jiggling up front were a dirty old man's dream. Which dirty old man would that
Are they
be,
Are they
Stephen?
firm and up thrust, or are they jiggling up front?
Well, I
Can
think
they
they
do
can
both?
be firm and upthrust and jiggle.
On page 1, we get non-breasted to describe.
Is so
Non-breasted.
funny. The gym teacher.
Yes.
The non-breasted gym teacher. What flat-chested is right there.
Non-breasted.
Small-breasted.
Non-breasted, I had never heard that term before.
It's not real.
Yeah, like-
non-breasted.
But, like, surely she had, I mean, maybe she had a mastectomy, or maybe she just had small boobs.
Maybe
Only
she
like
really-
20. I guess she could still
Yeah, I
have
mean,
had
she was like a
mastectomy.
young PE teacher.
Maybe she really had no breasts.
Non-breasted. She was smooth like a Ken doll.
So, yeah.
I also liked his description of her legs. Her legs, not too curved, but striking in their unobtrusive muscularity. Are they striking or are they unobtrusive? Are you struck by how much you didn't notice them? You're like, I thought she was floating. Once I realized she had legs, I was struck. What are you talking about? That's one of those sentences where I was like, is this a word count
I'm gonna
situation?
describe this thing that is absolutely unremarkable, but make it sound remarkable.
There's also that moment, the pivotal moment in Carrie's childhood where she sees her neighbor sunbathing topless.
Yes.
And it like, that's like her first TK event. She eventually, like, because the mom finds out, the mom comes out, it's screaming like a banshee, and then Carrie makes it like hail.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
throws rocks at the house because her mom's trying to kill her at that point. So she the mom takes her home from hanging out with the Dirty Pillows, and then tries to kill her because she thinks this is the second time in Carrie's life that her mother tries to kill her.
And they put that line from that, so that scene is not in the movie, but the dialogue from that scene ends up in the movie. Because when she's like 3 and she toddles over and sees the neighbor girl in her bikini, which her mom bought her specifically to antagonize the wife, which is kind of
Feminist
funny.
favorite.
Yeah.
Feminist favorite. Guess you're wearing this today.
Women weaponizing their teenage daughters to harass other women. Feminist favorite.
I'm for it.
So she comes toddling over, sees her big boobs in her bikini, and she's like, what are those? And the teenage girl's very nice to her, and she's like, these are breasts. All women have them. You'll have them one day. And that scene's not in the movie, but then in the movie when her mom is like, your dirty pillows are showing. Carrie's like, they're called breasts, Mama. All women have them. Yeah. I was like, oh, they kept that line. That's good.
So does Carrie's mom not have boobs? Does she not see them?
She's she thinks
Very
she's
covered.
cursed and sinned, and so that's why she has to deal with.
Do you know what I just realized? This movie is really about the pathetic state of sex education in the United States.
Truly.
Because the mom thinks the fact that Carrie is menstruating, she must have had intercourse. Mom, did you not menstruate before you had intercourse?
Oh, and see, I thought the mom equated menstruation just with
Lust,
sinfulness
yeah.
and lust, like not necessarily the physical act.
Because
but
in the movie, which is fresher in my mind,
Yeah.
she comes home and she's like, Mama, why didn't you tell me? And she starts making her repeat, fornication was the first sin, fornication was the first sin. And she's like, I didn't do anything. So I kind of thought her mother was accusing her of having sex, but she probably would have
There's
just
a fine
murdered
line.
her if
There's
she
a
thought
fine
that.
line.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, though, I do think she would have benefited from some anatomy and a good sex education.
Jesus.
Like, guess what? If the boobs are coming, they're coming.
And if they're not, they're not. Yeah. Non-boobed, non-breast.
Non-breasted.
It's hard to believe that like in the 70s there could be somebody that would think that, but I guess it's
Yeah, she was just unwell.
Yeah.
She was very, very, very unwell. Mm-hmm. And shaped by fundamentalism.
true.
That's where that went. Okay, so boob talk. So we've got non-breasted. We've got unobtrusive but striking. So Carrie's breasts. They're milk white.
Milk white.
Upright and smooth. The nipples are a light coffee color.
I was intrigued by that.
They're light coffee because of the milk of the breasts.
Also smooth. Does anybody have some like textured breasts?
I mean, I guess people could have textured breasts.
I mean, skin for the most part tends to be smooth. I mean,
At least in the early days, it is not unusual
Yeah.
to have smooth skin. I mean, I guess that's when you're writing for a men's magazine, you're trying to evoke something tactile. So
Yeah,
maybe
smooth is
that's why
nice.
we get the word smooth.
Men like to think of women as being smooth and soft, so
mine
They
feel like
do.
concrete, so I don't know.
bags of sand, as they say in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
And then when Tommy asked Carrie to prom, she's wearing a baggy sweater that concealed her breasts except for token nubs.
Token nubs.
Even if you wear a big frumpy sweater, there's still a little indication of a boob under there.
Well, I guess Carrie.
Two indications.
Ironically, Carrie probably not wearing bras because they don't discuss breasts at home. So she's probably out there jiggling around.
All the time braless.
But she gets one for her dress because we're told she had bought a special brassiere to go with it, which gave her breasts the proper uplift, not that they actually needed it.
That was my favorite one, I think.
Yes.
So good. Not that they needed it.
Parenthetical, not that they needed it. She had great tits.
Not that they needed it.
oh my God, Steven.
And
what
that's
are
when
you
her mom
doing?
says, I can see your dirty pillow.
That's so funny.
Tabitha's like, your breast writing is superb, Stephen. Keep going.
So I wonder how much of that Tab saw because
Well,
it did get edited later.
But, I mean, you do have to think of, this is not an excuse, but I think maybe a reason. He was supplementing their obviously very modest income with these men's magazine
make it
stories.
lascivious.
So
Yeah.
he's writing to a particular audience, or he's so accustomed to writing to that audience that that's just what comes out of the pen.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't remember if this was originally. It was originally supposed to be a story for a men's magazine,
But it never made
I
it in
think.
there, yeah.
So I
knows?
I get it. I'm annoyed by it, and I also get it.
I'm sure
As
while
my
he was
therapist
writing
often
this-
says both of those things are true.
Yes. I'm sure while he was writing this, he was also writing things for that magazine.
For sure.
So they bled together. Bled together.
There's no food in this book.
They're always going to the Kelly Fruit.
Oh, there's the
Root
soda
beer.
shop.
Root
Oh, that's
beer.
right. I forgot
That's
about
right.
that. Yeah.
They go to the soda shop, and they were supposed to go to the soda shop after the prom. Tommy was so nice to her.
Yeah.
She's like, I have to be home early. He's going to the after party, and he's like, well, before I go to that, why don't we go to the Kelly Fruit? And she's like, oh my God. It's like
Made her whole day.
best thing that ever happened to her, that he's like, let's make a side trip so you can do a second fun thing
Aw.
before I have to take you home.
She would have really enjoyed that.
She really would have. Maybe
Chris
they
and
would have
Billy.
shared a Coke float
She shouldn't have burnt the town down.
Well, Chris and Billy shouldn't have thrown pig's blood on her.
That's true.
or killed those poor pigs.
I think the death of the town is proximately caused by Chris and Billy.
True.
For sure. For sure.
Like that railroad case in law
Yes.
school.
I don't really have a soap stuff because the whole book.
Yeah.
The whole book. It's really reminiscent of the Marlena Evans's possession in Days of Our Lives, Which my grandmother was like, I'm never watching this stupid show again, and then sat down to watch it every day at 1:00 for the next 30 years. She was just disgusted
By the possession.
by the possession storyline. And then they did it again a
Good
few
TV.
years later. She got possessed again.
Poor Marlena. Jesus.
Yeah, it's funny how like Days of Our Lives for the most part is firmly rooted in the real world, even though it is outlandish, but it will sometimes veer into the supernatural. And as a viewer, it's very confusing. Because when you're watching Passions, you're like, well, there's a witch in this town, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
But when you're watching Days of Our Lives, it's mostly like stealing money and having affairs. And then it's like, demon.
That's how the devil enters our lives, Laurie.
That's true when you're not looking.
Right.
You get distracted by your money and your affairs.
That's right.
That's true.
Gotta stay vigilant. Head on a swivel.
Okay. Did you like the book?
Yeah.
It did not bother me. It was fine.
I really liked it.
I like the book.
Is it Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? I do have an answer.
I have an answer.
It is Star Wars because Carrie goes into dark Jedi rage and can move things with her mind.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
Like, Star Wars because she uses the Force.
I said it's Lord of the Rings because Carrie turns the gym into Mordor and she uses her all-seeing eye to look into everyone's mind.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, this might be a tie. I don't know.
Kevin, what do you think?
I
Based on the movie.
Star Wars?
Oh, no. But
no.
I like that you had a good argument, though, Lori.
Marital discord. Okay, so coming up next in November, we're going to do one novella, not 4 novellas. What is it, Amy? Say, let's go.
Blood of the Dragon by George R.R. Martin.
Is it in the Westeros world?
Sure is.
That's fun.
It's Blood of the Dragon referring to the
Targaryen?
Targaryen.
Yay! Ooh, House of the Dragon's coming back eventually, too. I'm excited about that.
So that one for best novella you said in 1997?
correct.
All right, so we're going to do that for November. And then in December, we're going to read Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. If I said that wrong, go ahead and let me know. And then in January, Spin by Robert Charles Wilson.
Yay!
Which I had never heard of. And I feel like I've looked through the Hugo list enough times that usually they jump out at me and I recognize them. And I was like, who's this guy?
It's unobtrusively muscled.
That's exactly right.
It was one of the first Hugo Award winners I started reading back when I started.
You said it was really good, right?
I love it.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
Sounds like a good couple months coming up.
Yeah.
I think everybody should read along with us.
I think they should.
Yeah.
Almost like a book club.
Book club.
Just as if.
All right. Anything else, buddies?
I like you guys.
I like you guys. Are you talking to Haley and Kevin and me or listeners?
I was talking to Haley and Kevin and you.
Aw.
I like our listeners
But I
too.
also like our listeners, so that
Yeah.
works too.
Yeah. I like you guys and I like you guys. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hugo girl. Hugo girl. Hugo girl. A hilarious podcast.
Bye, Barbie.
Bye, Barbie. Bye,
Bye,
Ken.
Barbie. Bye, Ken. Bye, Alan.